What's up, future millionaires? It's Mike the Investor. Now, this video is going to be a special interview between a good friend of mine, Ian from the PPCIAN channel. He also has a second channel, which is PPCIAN Crypto. Now, Ian is mainly known as a heavy stock dividend investor. He has over 20 years of experience, and we're going to be talking about why he got into crypto, also kind of his YouTube journey and everything in between. And so if you do want to check out any one of his channels, I will have them in the description. So definitely check those out. But let's go ahead and dive into the interview.
Mike, it is an honor to be on the channel. I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me here on your channel. And everyone in the community there, I'm so happy to be here. For those that don't know me, my name is PPC Ian. That's just a nickname I have. It stems from pay-per-click. I used to do a lot of digital advertising. I still do. That's where my career started out. But I invest for dividend stocks, for passive income. And so I have a channel all about investing in companies like Starbucks that pay dividends. They pay out part of their earnings to shareholders like myself every quarter. And I love that cash flow. And now I'm in crypto as well. And I invest in crypto actually with a very much a cash flow focus as well. So wonderful to be here, my friend.
And thanks so much, man. Thanks so much. So kind of let the community know we know you invest for passive income. We know that's why you, I guess, got invested into the stock market. So before we kind of deviate into crypto and everything, kind of let the community know who is PPCN, who is in the Dividend King.
All right. So basically, I live here in the San Francisco Bay Area in Silicon Valley. And so I live in an area that's very much technology focused. And in the middle of all of it, it's a very, I would say, sometimes a stressful lifestyle. It's expensive to live here. And you're always working. It's always really busy. And there's so much going on. I'm also a family man, married with 2 kids. And so the expenses of living somewhere like this are quite high. And so for me, kind of early on, just a long time ago, I've been doing dividend investing now for over 20 years, but especially more so, I would say in the last decade, I've been so focused on it. The strategy for me is about reducing stress. The strategy for me is living my best possible life. And what I've come to realize in life is, yes, having a career and a career path is really important. It's really exciting, but it's not necessarily 100% of what life is about. There's so much more to life, such as family, friends, exercising, hobbies, connecting with others on YouTube, for example. And so I've really chosen to double down on this dividend strategy to produce passive income, cash flow, dividend checks that I can use. I'm already using to pay some of my bills. Eventually, it will pay all of my bills. And more importantly, I believe that our society, it's kind of at an inflection point in some ways. We're kind of moving away from the pandemic. We're kind of post-pandemic right now. And I'm starting just to see the disparity in wealth, the wealth gap. It has widened big time. And you can see it in this area especially. And I'm starting to see automation. Some of the companies I own, like McDonald's, for example, which I love, they have an office here in the Silicon Valley, and they're investing in automation. They're investing in ways to reduce employees. And so I start thinking forward, like, hey, my kids, when they're in high school, like maybe they want their first job or something. Who knows even if those jobs, those types of jobs like at McDonald's, it would be available anymore. There's going to be so much automation. And so as I start thinking towards the future, really my one of the important parts of what I'm doing on YouTube and just from an education standpoint is I'm really trying to spread knowledge about dividend investing, because dividends are for everyone. Dividends are accessible to anyone. And I believe they're really a solid tool, a solid framework that can set up anyone for financial success, especially in this society where we're kind of moving towards more automation. We're moving towards things just evolving in our world. And I really look at dividends as a way, not just for myself, but for anyone out there to have peace and freedom in their financial lives.
Absolutely. Well said, well said. And so I was kind of going to ask why dividend investing, but you kind of broke that down for us, why you chose that. And so with knowing dividend investing, I would definitely say it's less riskier than looking for passive income, I guess, for in crypto.
Mhm.
which there are ways to help limit that risk. But of course, with the stock market being around since what, around 1790,
Yeah.
it's very mature. And so it's
Yeah.
been around for a very long time, which gives it that stability.
Yeah.
And I think that's also why we see the huge volatility in the crypto space because of it's so small right now compared to
Absolutely.
the stock market. And so when we look at why dividend investing and we look at how you're able to use some of your passive income now to pay bills, how did crypto make sense for you to kind of navigate into that, knowing what you know about the stock world and being invested for over 20 years?
Absolutely. This is a really important question because I think there's a few layers to it that are valuable to the community. And first and foremost, the reason I wanted to share the story about where I live and kind of how hard I worked and how kind of hectic it has been is sometimes when you're in the middle of something like that, it pushes you away, and it gives you an excuse not to invest in those types of companies. So I'll give you an example. I've done really well with the companies I own. One of my best performers, honestly, has been Starbucks. I've done really well with that company, but many people who know my portfolio and I share it on my channel, it doesn't have as much tech in it. It's kind of tech light. And one of the reasons for that, quite frankly, is I got so burnt out in working some tech positions over the years that I shied away from investing in it. I went towards more conservative companies. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's created a really solid foundation for my portfolio. But I also realize as an investor, you have to be critical of yourself. You have to look inward. You have to understand what could you improve upon. And I would say there are certain opportunities that I did miss out on. I missed out on buying Alphabet when it IPO'd. Back then it was just called Google. I missed out on Amazon in the early days. I missed out on some of these tech companies. Now, thankfully, I've owned Apple for a really long time, and that's one of my favorite holdings and one of my best performing ones. And I'll tell you, that is a whole story on its own. Market capitalization now about 2.5 trillion or something, and all of the Bitcoin combined is only worth what, like 700 billion or something now that it's rallied a bit in the last few days. That alone tells you something about the opportunity in crypto. But I guess we'll get to that later. But what I look at is now that I'm kind of, you go through these phases in life, you kind of learn as you keep learning. I think that's one of the benefits, I guess, of getting older. And I start looking, Ian, you missed out on some of these tech opportunities, and you really can't, I can't fault myself for that, because I'll tell you something else. Just as an investor, it's really important to realize that this is not necessarily like a game of baseball where you can strike out, because in baseball, if you miss the pitch, you're eventually going to strike out. But in investing, the pitches just keep coming. There's new opportunities every day. So you never want to look at yourself like, oh, I missed all these, and so I'm never going to make it. No, there's always more opportunities. And just like that, I bought Apple, and that was a really successful investment. But what I'm trying to say is, I firmly believe, just based on the people I know, the research I've done, where I live, what I've seen, where I see things going, that crypto is the next opportunity to invest in Google, basically like when it IPO'd, maybe even better than that. This is an opportunity to buy Amazon in the very early days, maybe even better than that, because we're not talking here about just one company either. We're talking about a class of currencies, and the global currency market is so huge. Even the market just for gold and Bitcoin at some point should replace gold. You're looking at something now that has like what, a $700 billion market cap, something that could easily get to, I would say, $10 trillion or more within the next few years. And so I start looking at something like that, and I'm like, I'm not going to put my entire portfolio in it. I'm not going to put everything in it, because that would be against my risk profile. Now, I know there's investors that do that. And I know, Mike, with you, you're pretty heavy into crypto. And so I know you even announced more recently you're moving away from stocks and really just all about crypto. And so I think different investors have different risk tolerances, but for me, I cannot ignore the opportunity. I am really excited about crypto this cycle. I was in it last cycle too. I was in it from a buy low, sell high standpoint. This cycle, I'm in it buying low, or what I believe is low, and holding forever. And the difference is now I can earn passive income on my crypto. Just like my dividend stocks, I can earn interest on my Bitcoin. I can earn interest on my US dollar coin. I can earn interest on my Ethereum, so on and so forth. And so because of that, I am in it this time. But what I would also say is, where I look at my overall portfolio allocation, crypto, I do reserve a smaller part of the portfolio for that. It's not, it's something where I have to keep the allocation under control just for my own risk profile.
Absolutely. And that makes perfect sense. And I think also that's what makes it so awesome with investing, because there's everyone from all different walks of life with different goals and different things that, they're trying to accomplish based off of their investments. Age also has a big factor in that as
Yeah.
well. Whereas, if I'm safe to say, someone in your shoes has a decent amount of success in the stock world. And so for me, I think a person in your position would make more sense to only have a certain allocation in crypto. I think that makes perfect sense. Whereas someone like me, I got heavy invested in investing in the stock market in April of 2019. Got into crypto of March of 2020. So I got in like the last low part, in my opinion. That was when Bitcoin was around 3 to 7,000 back in March 2020. It
Hmm.
was 3 to 7,000 per coin. And so
Yeah.
for me, I started looking at handwriting on the wall, big
Yeah.
financial institutions, companies that's been invested in the blockchain space, publicly since 2017. And I always say, if they let us know that they were publicly invested this at this time, they probably invested a little bit earlier than that, right? And
Yeah.
so I just kind of look at certain things as well. And so, not to talk too much about me, but one thing that I noticed as
That's
well
great.
in
It's great to hear the background on you as well, my friend. So thank you, yeah, for sharing those insights. And
yeah,
that resonated with me, because I'll tell you, also got, I'd say it's skill and luck, and I think that's a good takeaway for anyone at home. That's what investing involves. It's not only skill. There's always an element of luck to it. But if you're in the game long enough, and you stick with the right strategies, you don't jump around to too many things. And that's a mistake I made in my early days. I was just trying everything under the sun, all kinds of different types of investing. But I've really honed in on this passive income strategy for me. And it's mainly dividends, but I've got it in crypto. I even own some real estate too. And so passive income all around. But I saw the same trends that you saw, basically. And it was in 2018, late 2018, that I started accumulating again. And I definitely, a lot of the trends you just mentioned were resonating with me at that time, and continue to right now as well.
awesome. And they say smart money knows where smart money is going, right?
That's right.
And so one thing that I really liked, and one thing that I was kind of surprised about, is you've already let us know that you've been in crypto since around 2017, but you didn't actually make a crypto channel, for the community, for people to actually learn about and share your journey with it until, what was it, this year? Was it this
It was
year?
this year. It was, honestly, I'd say maybe 3, 4 months ago. It's pretty new. It's definitely a new channel.
Yeah, yeah. And it's actually seen some tremendous growth. I believe it's PPCN crypto. So his main
Yeah.
channel's PPCN. So definitely go give him a subscribe if you haven't already, and definitely go
Thank
check out
you.
the crypto channel as well. And so kind of talk to us about what made you decide to say, hey, I'm gonna make another channel to talk about crypto, because we know how much YouTube requires. And we're gonna talk about that a little bit as well.
YouTube is a lot of work. It is a true passion of mine. I love it. The best part is stuff like this, connecting with my friend Mike here on Zoom and getting to chat. This is what makes it all worth it. And connecting with everyone in the comments. And I even do in-person meetups sometimes. It's fun. In California, I've got a lot of subscribers. And so I have one coming up in Los Angeles. It's just fun. That's the best
It's
part of it. But
awesome.
it sure is a lot of work. I'll tell you, it's very much this concept of YouTube actually that drove two channels. I'll just be honest with everyone. I started talking about cryptocurrency on my main channel. And whenever I did, the response wasn't really what I was looking for. And it probably wasn't what YouTube was looking for either. I would tell you, YouTube, it's a lot like working a job. When and I'm talking like a high stakes job, like high pressure job. A lot of these types of
Yeah.
jobs I've worked in my life that have driven me into passive income because I want to automate myself and not have so much pressure my whole life. But the mentality with a lot of managers that I've worked for over the years is, Ian, what have you done for me lately? It doesn't matter if last year I made the company $10 million. It doesn't matter if last week I had this huge new product launch that went well. No, it's, Ian, what have you done for me lately, aka yesterday? And so it's the same thing, honestly, with YouTube. And what I found is it really is important to consistently produce the best quality content that resonates with your audience. And what I started learning, unfortunately, on my main channel is crypto, a lot of people love it and a lot of people wanted to hear about it. A lot of people are very interested in it, but also there is a very good segment of my audience that they're like, hey, Ian, that's cool you're doing crypto, but it's just not for me. I don't want to hear about it as much. And so, and I respect that. And what happens when you're in that kind of situation and I post a video about crypto or I even talk about it too much on my main channel, a lot of people love it and they tune into it, but a lot of people also unfortunately tune out. And when that happens, you get lower views. And when you get lower views, it's like the algorithm, I don't know the algorithm, but I'm assuming it's like my bosses I've had in the past, Ian, what have you done for me lately? And unfortunately, with the views lower, it's just not a winning formula for someone who's looking to grow. And ultimately, I want my message about dividends to reach as many people as possible, because as I mentioned earlier, I believe that is the solution. And I think it's a solid, conservative, easygoing, sleep well at night strategy. And so last thing I want to do is slow down the growth of that channel. And so what I decided to do was create another channel just focused on crypto. I saw a market need that there's a lot of crypto channels, but I didn't see too many that were like 100% focused on cash flow, 100% focused on boring stuff like, oh, what did you do this week, Ian? I just bought some US dollar coin. And then the next week, Ian, what did you do this week? Well, I bought more US dollar coin. That doesn't make for the most exciting crypto channel, but that's kind of what I talk about a lot of the time. And I just wanted to create this channel, one, to kind of keep my main channel just kind of preserved, in the good graces of all of my subscribers, and ultimately just YouTube, because that's what people came to it and continue to come to it for, is that the dividend content. And so I went ahead and created the new channel, and the good portion of people, the segment of people on my main channel who wanted to hear about crypto, they came over there and they subscribed. I'm so grateful for that. And that's how I ended up with two channels. And it goes even further. Even on Facebook, I have a private Facebook group. It's free to join. And even there, when I was talking about crypto, there's a good amount of people just kind of jumping in saying, Ian, really don't want to hear about it here. And so I created a whole nother group for that. And there's so many layers to these questions. And one thing you'll all learn about me is I'm probably one of the more long-winded YouTubers. I can go on for days about this stuff, but I'll unpack one more layer of all of this. A lot of these people who don't want to hear about crypto, who are more traditional investors, I respect that and I understand that. And I think in a lot of cases it makes sense because, you know, crypto, you can lose money a lot quicker than in stocks. And dividend stocks, yeah, things got kind of scary during the downturn, during the pandemic, or during the great financial crisis. But in general, dividend stocks that I own, they have less drawdown even than the index, the S&P 500. They perform even better in a down market than the S&P 500. And so it's a sleep well at night strategy. But crypto, as we all know, it can get really volatile. And so it just isn't for all investors. But I guess the last layer, though, I was trying to unpack is that there's still so much skepticism I've seen from traditional investors on crypto. And a lot of people still believe it's a scam. They believe it's a Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme. And I hear these types of comments every day. And so again, that's one of the reasons I created a completely separate channel, because we're kind of at that stage in the market where either you get it or you just, it's not for you. You might believe it's a Ponzi scheme. I don't believe it's that. I believe I've researched the technology. I think maybe there are some scams within the industry, as there are
Yeah,
probably in any industry. But I think
absolutely.
with the world-class solid coins like Bitcoin, I have full faith in that blockchain. But anyway, that's a long answer to what you were asking. But just kind of on that last nuance, what gets me so excited about crypto right now is the level of skepticism. It's kind of that skepticism that existed when the internet was first invented, and so it's kind of, I think we're at that stage in the market where for the next few years there will continue to be some skepticism, and that's probably a good thing for early investors. But obviously, there is a lot of risk in it, for sure.
I would agree. I would agree. Definitely a lot of risk for sure. And so, I, one thing I was kind of liking, I was hoping I remembered as you were explaining your different layers. One thing that I like is you said it's kind of boring. Like, hey, Ian, what did you do this week? I bought USDC coin. Hey, Ian, what did you do the following week? I bought USDC coin. And so that strategy is so similar to I mean, to not USDC, but so similar to dividend investing. And one thing I really like about crypto is, yes, it's more riskier, but when you have assets like that, like the stable coin that, yes, you're not getting any capital appreciation, but you're also not losing anything either. And you have centralized exchanges where you can make anywhere from 8 to 12%. That's a game changer, right? Whereas the normal dividend aristocrat or king is anywhere from what, 1.5 to maybe 4% on the high
Yeah,
side, if we're talking an
yeah,
Outtree or something like that. So I think that
yeah,
really changes the game for a lot of people. And I
yeah.
think, does that, being able to do that with crypto, is that what kind of also piqued your interest to start building passive income with crypto?
Absolutely, it did. And it's platforms out there like BlockFi and Voyager that make it easy for people to achieve that goal. That really piqued my interest in crypto. And I would say it is true. You can earn a lot of interest in crypto right away. Now, that interest is taxed differently. It's ordinary income, whereas the dividends you receive from companies like Altria are typically qualified dividends. So they qualify for long term capital gains, which is a lower tax rate. And I'd say the other nuance with dividends, dividend kings, aristocrats, they tend to increase the dividend year over year over year. And so, because of that, it's possible if you hold them long enough to yield as much as these crypto investments or more. I'm yielding over 20% on my Altria that I own, 20% yield on cost, because I've held it so long. I've held it forever and they keep raising the dividend. But what I would say is the opportunity to earn that interest right away in crypto, I don't know if these interest rates will always be this high. I think it's a reflection of a brand new industry. And I think over time, as the industry matures, maybe the interest rates will not always stay quite as high, but surely in the short run, I enjoy it. And that is something that drew me in. And I would say also, just as any, one of the things is I look at market cycles. And right now, from a stock standpoint, it's tough to find anything that's on sale. There's a few, but I mean something like I bought a stock yesterday, Honeywell. I think the price earnings ratio I paid on a forward basis was like a 28. That's not a good deal. Typically, I bought these types of stocks at like a PE of like 15 or 16 in the past years, and so I still bought it because I buy stock every week. I just like to average in and get closer and closer to my financial goals. But I realize I'm not getting good value there. And so, an investor in this kind of market, when there's not a lot of other places to turn, you look at something like US dollar coin or the Gemini coin, and you're like, wow, I can yield, 9%, 9.5% on these types of coins. They're pegged 1 to 1 with the US dollar. They have reserves. That's exciting and it's compelling. And what I would say though is there's obviously a level of risk. It's not FDIC insured. And the other thing I would say is there's recently been some challenges against these coins. I've been reading in the news that I think the SEC in New Jersey, and there was another state as well, was looking into these coins and starting to challenge these coins. That being said, there's a whole nother that's a whole nother topic. I think we're at a point in our society where there's kind of old versus new. And I think a lot of it also is generationally. It's older generations versus younger generations. I think the whole discussion of the wealth divide ties into it. There's a lot philosophically happening in our society right now. And I think we're at this point of transition, and it's always hard during a time of radical transition. It's hard for people to let go of the old and welcome the new. And so I think when there's a lot of skepticism about something like a US dollar coin, for example, that's what I think. That's the first thing I think is, oh yeah, it's just part of the transition, it's part of the power struggle. But the fact of the matter is, there is the power struggle, and there is some risk with these stable coins. But nonetheless, for the interest rate I'm receiving, for the amount of money I'm putting into them and staying broadly diversified, they play a really important role in my portfolio, and I enjoy holding them. And I'll tell you the other reason I love these boring stable coins as well is they make it possible for me to buy other crypto assets that are more volatile. So for me, when I buy crypto assets, usually I do like a 50-50 approach these days. Like if I have, say, $1,000 to invest, I'll put 500 into a stable coin and then 500 into something that's not stable, like Bitcoin, for example. And so for me, then if Bitcoin all of a sudden tanks, I don't, it kind of helps me out. I know that the half I put in the stable coin is pegged with the dollar and it's earning interest. So I've done all kinds of modeling around this. It helps compensate and lower the volatility of my crypto portfolio. So it plays a really key role in that regard as well.
I think that's a great way to kind of just tell the community, because I think every different investor has a different risk tolerance, right? And so for you, how you just said, you modeled it around to something that's tolerant for you. And I think that's a key nugget there that if you missed, he really just kind of broken down how he goes about making sure his risk is in line with his beliefs and everything like that. And I think that's a key segue for any investor just to kind of talk about on. So thanks for sharing that, Ian. And so
Absolutely.
one question I have, of course, we're both believers in crypto, and we both believe it's going to be here when the smoke clears. Of course, there's risk associated with it, but what would you say the future of crypto in your terms would be? Of course, there's over 15,000 plus cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
Of course, not all of them are going to be here. Most of them aren't going to be here, in my opinion. But
Mhm.
what's your take on the future of the crypto space?
I think that's a really good question because a lot of people believe that the future, when they think of crypto, they just think, oh, it's just Bitcoin. But the thing about it is, I think Bitcoin is just the tip of the iceberg. I look at Bitcoin as digital gold. And so I see Bitcoin, it's one of my favorite cryptos. But I see at a certain point, maybe it'll reach 10 trillion market cap, maybe 20 trillion. But at a certain point, it's going to flatten out and it'll act as that kind of reserve digital gold. I don't think anyone's going to be really using it widely to pay for expenses or to transact. It's just too slow of a network to accomplish that. But what I see with crypto is multiple layers. I know, for example, I was surprised. I read news a few months ago that Visa was using the Ethereum network and they were running some tests with, I think, US dollar coin to see on their back end if instead of their traditional network, they could settle transactions in blockchain quicker. Now, most of us watching know that Ethereum is pretty slow. And so I was surprised that they picked that. But I also think they chose Ethereum because it is a blockchain that is established. It's a blockchain that's been around a while. It's a blockchain that's very big. And the market cap of Ethereum, it's probably around 300 billion or so now these days, somewhere in that
Yeah.
ballpark. But basically, where I see the future of crypto is in stable coins that are either sponsored by third parties like US dollar coins sponsored by Circle,
Yeah.
or even government sponsored stable coins. I know in China, for example, they're working on that. They're thinking about a government-sponsored stablecoin. I actually think it'll come to markets probably not too long from now, if I had to guess. But what I see in the future is payment processors and global financial networks like Visa, for example, migrating from legacy technologies to blockchain technologies. And I see stable coins playing a big role. And I see it as the future of speeding up finance, making finance quicker and more effective, bringing it into the digital age. And one of the networks I'm really excited about that I actually invest in personally is Algorand. I really like Algorand because it is one of those networks that is very secure, very stable, but it works like at light speed. It works really quickly. And so a lot of what Algorand does already is not even available in Ethereum till version 2.0. And so the I could foresee companies like Visa and others, banking systems, partnering with blockchains like Algorand and others to speed things up, to make them more efficient. And I could foresee in the future that consumers, they will probably have a portion of their money in coins like Bitcoin as like reserves or savings or as a hedge against inflation. But there's going to be all other types of coins that are used more practically just for day-to-day transactions. And so, and then I think there's going to be those coins that people own and invest in as a way to invest in decentralized technologies. And so for me, I own Algorand, not because I'm going to really use Algo for transactions, but more as an investment in the network. I own Ethereum because I want to invest in Ethereum, because I think Ethereum, even though it's a little bit slower, I think it's always going to be around from the first mover advantage standpoint. And because there's already such a huge base of NFTs on Ethereum. Personally, if I was buying NFTs and I was investing in NFTs, I would want to go on the Ethereum-backed blockchain. It just is where I would feel most comfortable. And I'm imagining that's how many other NFT investors think about it. And so I think they have that market cornered, and I think that will be there. And so investing in Ethereum is an investment in that entire blockchain. And so I think a lot of how investors have historically looked at, hey, I'm investing in Google stock, or or now Alphabet, or I'm investing in Apple stock. They're going to start thinking about different blockchains as investments in decentralized technologies. And so that's how I see it evolving. But again, I go back to my prior point, because just as I'm mentioning this, the way most cryptos are viewed right now from the powers that be are, thankfully, they're viewed as commodities. But some people are starting to challenge that, like, hey, it's not a commodity, it's a security. And to the extent that it legally could be proven that it's a security and not a commodity, that opens a whole can of worms as well from a regulatory standpoint. And so I would certainly say from a risk standpoint going forward, we're so early. And I generally believe, I'm just talking to personal experience, less regulation is better. Let's just let this thing go and see what it can do. The worst thing we want to do is push it down. But that being said, there are people that believe otherwise, and we'll have to see how it plays out. But it certainly comes with risk. Whereas investing in stocks, again, I keep using the Starbucks example, but it's so old school that all of the fine print, all of the technical details, all of the regulations, it's all figured out. And so that kind of part of risk is kind of off the table. But because there's less risk, there's also less upside as well.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of the give and take thing you have with both asset classes,
Yeah.
right? And so, and I think it really depends on the investor, maybe the age, what they're trying to accomplish. There's so many moving factors make the action for that investor depending on what they're going to do. And so, one thing I wanted to talk about when you said there's different layers, there are going to be different layers with the blockchain. And so there's definitely going to be more than one blockchain or project that has some type of market share. And so when we look at just the layer one, proof of work, then you have layer one, proof of work, then you have layer two, proof of stake, then you have your layer three, and everything else that's being built on top of that. And so one thing that you said about Algorand, I'm also invested in Algorand as well. And when you said that Visa is connected, they've actually chosen 4 blockchains for the USDC payment.
Oh,
Algorand's
really?
one of them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Algorand's one, Ethereum, Stellar, and Solana blockchain are the 4.
Nice.
And so when you look at market share, when you look at big players, Visa is the largest payment processor. Yes, you have MasterCard. Yes, you have American Express. You have these other ones, Capital One, so forth and so on. But when you look at the largest payment processor, who has the most market share, and they only choose 4 blockchains, that kind of lets you know who they're choosing, who they trust, and who they're going to go with. Because with that being said, Visa is going to now eventually start allowing USDC payments for people to pay their credit card statement with USDC. That's a game changer. That's major, right? And
Mhm.
so Visa also had the partnership with Circle, which for USDC, and we know Circle is backed by Digital Currency Group and IMF and so much. So I mean, when you really just look at the handwriting on the wall and you understand who's invested, I'm a firm believer that education limits risk. Not all risk, but I believe it limits a lot of risk.
I really like that point you just brought up, Mike. And that's one of the things I personally learned. I love your channel and I watch most of the videos, and they're honestly my favorite crypto channel. One of the things you've said since the early days is follow the money. And I even remember it was in those the name is escaping me now, but those exchange traded funds that basically invest in different crypto assets. And you were pointing that, hey, out of all of the crypto assets that exist, the ETFs only exist for these ones. Why is that? It probably makes sense for investors to look into that. And that's a key piece of knowledge I picked up from your channel. And that's actually around the time that I picked up Ethereum Classic as well, because of that train of thought that you were taking. And I've done really well as a result. And so I continue to hold to this day, and I'm convinced that that is a solid long term strategy, at least for my personal situation. But what I would say also to add on to what you were saying is one of the things I monitor, and I see it because I live here in the Silicon Valley and I'm connected to a lot of people that work in technology and are on the forefront of new developments. And I like to follow what the venture capitalists are doing. I like to follow which companies are hiring. I like to follow, what are these companies investing in? And even looking at something, just looking on a micro level at one company that is just one company, part of a really big ecosystem, BlockFi. I think it's a perfect example. I recently had their head of partnerships on my channel just for a little interview, Chris Fiore, and he was mentioning that they're up to about like 900 employees now, something around that. And he mentioned also that they are doing a fund, another rounding VC fund, and I think they're raising another like $350 million or something like that. And you start thinking that's just one company in a huge space. And if you see, I don't think the everyday consumer realizes what's happening. I don't think the everyday investor even realizes, no, this isn't just some funny like internet money that was, some meme or something like that. No, real smart money is being invested in these companies. Real money is being put at stake, and really smart people are going into this industry to work on these technologies. We know Coinbase, for example, which is a stock that I own, one of the only non-dividend stocks I own, was the market capitalization now is about $60 billion, something like that. How many people are they hiring right now? And so I just start following those types of trends that people I know. I'll tell you just from a personal standpoint, I work in real estate now. I develop real estate for passive income, cash flow, long term investment type perspective. But if I were ever to get back into say the technology space and I wanted to go that career path again, the first thing I would look at would be a job in crypto. That's where I would say it's just fun. It's the forefront of what's to come in the future. And so I think it cannot be underestimated the amount of talent, the amount of money, the amount of mind share that is being invested in the industry right now. And I think the everyday person doesn't see that. And I honestly think the value of the crypto assets in total don't even reflect that yet. I think it's going to be reflected in future years, but I think now it's still like kind of flying under the radar. Like people don't even realize the amount of development. And even hearing from you, Mike, just in what you just said, I didn't even realize that Visa was doing all of those tests. The last I read, it was just Ethereum, and now they're doing 4 different blockchains. It just keeps evolving every single day, every single month. And I don't think the valuations have caught up yet with what's really going on.
I would agree 100%. And one thing I like you said, I don't think people realize, and one thing that I've noticed, we've seen more adoption, we've seen more things that's happened while the market has kind of been in a flux, right? I mean, think about how
Hmm.
many things has happened since Bitcoin has dropped from its all-time high around 65K. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot that's taken place. And so I tell people that are maybe nervous at this time that may have just got into
Yeah.
crypto, because I mean, if you bought in late January, then most likely you're down on your position. I mean, let's be real. And so it's harder for some people who may have just got into investing, like for people who didn't come from the stock market, like you and I, who already kind of had a
Yeah.
built up tolerance. Crypto's a different animal. The volatility is crazy, right? So you see Bitcoin went from 64.9 all the way to like 29,000. That's a lot of money gone, right? Bitcoin was at $1 trillion asset class and it went down to about 500,000, a little bit below. So a lot of people aren't used to that type of volatility.
I think about this a lot. I think investors sometimes, especially in crypto, I am guilty of this. I feel this way. If you see Bitcoin fall in half, you start thinking, did I make a mistake? Is it the wrong thing? And you start doubting yourself. But what you don't realize is all the while it's been falling, that doesn't mean that all of the VC funding dries up. That doesn't mean that all of these people being hired, some of the brightest minds in the world to work on crypto, that all of a sudden they're let go or they leave the job or they stop what they're doing. It doesn't mean any of that. All the while, the industry, the investment, the talent, they keep moving forward. Everything is moving forward, yet the price is coming down. And so I think when the price is coming down, we're humans, um, we all work really hard for the money that we have. And it is emotional sometimes to see that kind of loss. And again, that's why I like to invest in stable coins and more volatile cryptos to kind of even out the volatility in my portfolio. And that's why in the universe of what I do, crypto is a smaller subsegment of everything. Just so I'm diversified and I can sleep well at night. I have my own level of risk tolerance and I have a family. It depends on me. And so I have to be careful there. But again, I think the key point, and I imagine if I'm guilty of this, probably other people could relate, that sometimes we all forget this industry keeps moving forward. And you see this like really bad news, like, oh my gosh, the SEC in New Jersey is looking into this and that. But when I saw that news, I just started looking into, well, who is actually involved that's going to work with them and try to get past this roadblock and try to educate and try to work as a team and collaborate and try to make sure that things can keep improving for the technologies and the people who use those technologies. And you look at who's involved in this industry, it is the best and brightest. And so that is kind of a friendly reminder always to myself that, Ian, why did you invest in it? You invest in it because of this, because it keeps marching forward and it's the future. And so I think that's just a real key point that your line of reasoning was basically reminded me about.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think that's a good thing you said that, because I mean, as YouTube people, as influencers, I think sometimes people forget that we're human like them, right?
Yeah.
And so we deal with the same emotions, we deal with the same mindset sometimes that tries to creep in as an investor, right? And so you have to, and that's why I always say, remember what you own, know why you own an asset, because that's what you go back to when those things creep into your mind. Why do I own this, right? Why did I buy this? Why do I have belief in this? And so I think that's so key that you said that. All right, so Ian, so now I kind of wanted to segue a little bit and just briefly kind of talk about your YouTube journey, because I mean, a lot of work goes into YouTube, as we both know. And now you have two YouTube channels that you have a commitment for on top of your businesses, your real estate. So kind of just talk to us about your life, man, because it got to be super busy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, my life is really busy these days. I would say YouTube overall for me, it's um, it's about inspiring and motivating. I really do believe that this notion of passive income, this concept of dividends, and also crypto for that matter, these are real opportunities that are available to everyone. And so I really believe in empowering everyday people to look at these types of options and see if it might make sense for them to improve upon financial situations and set up financial freedom in the future, set up automated income, set up opportunities in the future. And so I have that driving force for me every week when I'm filming YouTube videos, when I'm putting in all of that work, and it is a lot of work. It is really remembering that, hey, I have this community of people on my main channel now, over 80,000. I'm really blessed.
Man, that is
And I just remember, man, these are people who are waiting for my videos. These are people that are counting on me, and so that kind of drives me to do what I do. Now, it's I would say for anyone looking to get into YouTube, I would never get into YouTube or recommend getting into YouTube just if you're looking for a way to earn money or as a way to earn passive income. It's not passive; it's very active. It's
yeah.
some of the hardest earned money that you could work for. But it's if you're getting into it for the reasons of you're passionate about something, you want to share with the world your journey, you want to connect with people. I'd say making friendships, connecting with people, like on this very interview. I would have never known Mike if it weren't for YouTube. And so I'm blessed. I'm thankful for that. And I would say those are the reasons to get into YouTube. So whether you have a passion for personal finance or for travel or for fashion or for anything else, I would always try to um, go for your passion if you are interested in YouTube. And I'll give you guys kind of an example. I most YouTubers delete their videos, their old videos. So if you see any like really successful YouTuber, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and I always like going back and seeing, well, what were some of your first videos like? And you look at them and you're like, wait a minute, they look almost as good as your recent videos. And then you realize, wait, how did your first video get all these views? It has like hundreds of thousands of views. And then you start realizing, oh, it's because they had videos before that, but they just deleted them all. Well, on my channel, if you go back to my early videos, you'll see how kind of not good they were, how very, I was talking even not even about investing. I was talking about like pay-per-click marketing, hence my name, PPCIAN. I was talking about digital marketing. That was I figured at that time that, hey, I'll just do a YouTube channel about my career path and kind of reach out to people and talk about marketing. And so, but what's interesting is if you look at those early videos, they didn't get that much traction. Now, obviously, it's also because they just weren't that good. And so I tell you on YouTube, one of the best things about it is as you go, you'll just keep improving. Every video, every month, you just keep getting better and better and better. And that's one of the best things about the journey is no matter where you start, you're going to get a lot better. And that's why I like to keep my early videos there, because they're just not that good. And you see how I've evolved over time. But the other lesson though from those early videos is, am I passionate about my career and at that time in pay-per-click marketing the way I am about dividends? No way. Like dividends, I dream about dividends when I sleep. It's like it's one of my favorite things in the world. And so you have to have that level of passion for something, in my opinion, for to be authentic on YouTube, to really have a channel that grows, because people will see, they'll see, wow, he is like the most passionate person about dividends. He is a world-class authority on it. But when I was talking about marketing, I was like, yeah, I'm passionate about it, but it's not the same. And so I'd say that would be a key strategy as well if you're considering getting into YouTube, to be really, really passionate and align what you speak about on YouTube. It may have nothing to do with your job, your career path, and that's fine. And so the other thing I would just say is, well, how do I juggle it all? It can't go on forever. I don't know how I do it all. I don't get too much sleep. I'm kind of at that point in my life where I'm still young enough where I'm putting in the hard work with my eye on the future, with my eye on accomplishing my dreams, accomplishing my goals. And so doing the full-time job, doing the full-time YouTube, exercising as much as I do, having all the family responsibilities I have, it is tough to balance it all. And I would say it's not necessarily I'm living like a dream lifestyle right now. I think a lot of people might not even want the lifestyle I have now because it is a lot of work. It is kind of work, work, work. But at least I'm doing what I love and I'm doing something that sets me up for success. Now, if you were to come back, and hopefully I'll be able to come back on this channel in another, say, five,
Absolutely.
10 years or something like that, and you interview me again, by then maybe things will have changed. At a certain point, I do aspire to slow down a little bit. And that's honestly why I'm doing what I'm doing with crypto, with dividends, with really everything is looking towards the future. But I'd say if I were to analyze myself, one of the things I need to be careful about is enjoying the moment and enjoying the journey. And sometimes I'll tell you behind the scenes, everything looks good when you look at the YouTube videos. Everything looks good when you're on my Instagram. But there are tough moments. There are like nights where I don't get too much sleep. There are stressful times trying to juggle so much. And so for me personally, I am really looking forward to the days in the future when I can slow down just a little bit and have just a little more time. But I also have to remember right now to to slow down in the moment because sometimes I do work too hard. So that's a little
Yeah.
bit about me. But just by trade, I also develop real estate. So the career path I'm in now at the company I work at, we're in the self-storage industry. And so I develop self-storage facilities at our company. I'm also responsible for all of our marketing. And so I still do
Nice.
that pay-per-click. To this day, I enjoy digital marketing and that's part of what I do, and it's a lot of fun. It's a passion, not as much of a passion as investing, but it's still up there. It's something I really enjoy, and that's what I'm all about. And I would say at heart, I enjoy the entrepreneurial lifestyle as well as just being able to, whether it's on YouTube or with crypto, going after just new things and seeing where it goes. And so that's just a bit about me.
And so, in one of the last questions I have for you is one thing I'm very inspired about is also we're friends on Instagram. You're a rap connoisseur. You have that swag to you. Even though with you can pass to be for the generation before us, but also millennials. And so, one thing I really like is you're in tune with what's happening and what's coming. Even with you, being a little bit older, having a family, being in the workforce for years. And so I just kind of want to ask you, how do you I guess navigate, or how did that come for you, man? Because you have that younger old swag, and I really like it, man. So talk to us about that.
Well, I really appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. I'll tell you, technically, I believe based on some studies, at least, I'm considered one of the oldest millennials there are. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I take a lot of pride in kind of falling into that bucket. Um, I would say that for me, definitely, I feel I'm at a unique age and a unique point in kind of society where I understand the younger generations and I understand the older generations too. And I think it really helps with my investing in crypto and also dividend stocks, tech stocks too, like Apple. And where I'm headed with this is as an investor, whether you're in crypto or anything else, it's really important to look at the trends. It's really important to understand what's coming. And one of the things that I've noticed is the younger generations are very adaptable with technology. The younger generations faced a lot of unique things in their lives, such as graduating university during the great financial crisis, for example. And they've also faced, I see it firsthand here in the Bay Area, real estate prices that are just skyrocketing so fast that it's impossible to keep up, and it's impossible to pretty much buy a home that would be similar to how maybe some of these people grew up. It's just living that lifestyle is difficult, and I programs the younger people to want certain things in the future that may be different than the older generations who might, some, not everyone, but some people may be holding on to older way of doing things. And there's a philosophy called the fourth turning that comes from an author, 𝗫𝗓𝗓. And I personally believe that some of that is what we're seeing is it's kind of this generational struggle in some ways between the older way of doing things and the newer way of doing things. And I personally see crypto is at the forefront of that. And I see that some of this lashback against crypto, some of the challenges against crypto, it's not only about crypto, it's about the kind of the old way and the new way. And so just as an investor, ultimately, I believe in progress, and I believe in improvement in technology and making things easier and better. And I think technology has always been behind innovation, been behind improvements in general. I mean, look at what the internet has allowed, just even with the interview today, all of us to connect and collaborate as a community to learn from each other. And so, what I'm just saying, from my vantage point, looking forward, I think sometimes people underestimate what's coming. And I think what's coming is all of the younger generations are going to want to do things radically different. They are going to get into positions of power. And whether you want that or not doesn't really matter. What matters is, as an investor, to realize what's happening and to understand the best way to position yourself accordingly. And so I personally believe the younger generations are going to be huge proponents of the cryptocurrency revolution, and I am excited to see what's going to come of it in the future decades.
Yeah, well said, well said. And so, for those that are watching this interview, I want you guys to stay tuned for part two, where I'm going to have the pleasure of being on PPC Ian channel, and we're going
Yep.
to kind of talk to me. He's going to interview me. We're going to kind of chop it up as well. And things maybe we didn't cover in this interview, we'll be able to cover it in part two. And I believe that's going to be the following week sometime as well. And
Yes.
so, Mr. N, if there's anything before we get out of here, if there's anything you want to let the community know about you, or just any golden nuggets you want to tell the community, you have the floor, brother.
Well, I would say thank you, Mike. First and foremost, thank you, Mike, for this opportunity. Thank you to everyone in the community. Again, this is one of my favorite YouTube channels. I cannot underscore enough the knowledge, the value, the delivery, the motivation, the enthusiasm that comes from the videos that you produce here on YouTube, Mike. So thank you for that. It's honestly, I think it's a lot beyond just, the crypto part of it. It is what you deliver is pure motivation. It's something that someone can tune in the middle of the week. Maybe they're not having the best week at work. Maybe they're feeling like, what does my future hold in terms of finances? And just watching your video puts someone on a different mindset. And those are the types of channels that I gravitate towards, that I love. And so I would say, anyone watching today, make sure to subscribe to Mike's channel and make sure to follow what he's doing, because his journey here on YouTube is absolutely amazing. And I can't wait to see you reach hundreds of thousands and one day hit 1 million subscribers. And so I think to end here, if you want to follow me, I'm sure Mike will link to it somewhere, but I'm just PPC Ian on YouTube. And one thing I like to do before I leave on any of these things is just to let you all know, in terms of just kind of a disclaimer, I don't offer investment advice. And so everything discussed today, it's just for kind of fun, entertainment value. Please do consult a licensed advisor, financial advisor, before making any choices, because as we all know, investing in stocks or crypto, it does carry a lot of risk. And I also just want to mention, in terms of a disclosure, I mentioned a lot of stocks and crypto assets today, and all of the ones that I mentioned today, I personally own in my portfolio. Stocks such as like Coinbase and Starbucks, and cryptos like Bitcoin and US dollar coin, all those ones I listed, I own all of those in my personal portfolio. And I just want to say it's been a pleasure to be on your channel today. And I really thank everyone for tuning in. And please, if you do have questions, head on down to the comments section, and questions, feedback, would love to see it. And hopefully we get more opportunities to connect in the future. And thanks again, my friend. Really appreciate it.
Ian from the PPCN channel, thanks again for coming on. And remember, stay tuned for part two. Will be on Ian's channel. So go ahead and subscribe right now so you don't miss it. And Ian, thanks, and have a blessed rest of the week, brother.
You too, my friend. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, crypto investors. So that's the interview between myself and PPC Ian. Remember, both of his channels will be down in the description. Definitely consider giving him a subscribe. He gives great information, and he's very down to earth, as you can see. And remember, I will be on his channel sometime next week. He's going to be interviewing me, and we're going to be digging in a little bit more about myself. And so definitely stay tuned for that. And so if you haven't connected with me on my social platforms yet, on Twitter or Instagram, definitely consider connecting with me at Mike the Investor. And before before getting out of here, definitely grab some free Bitcoin by checking out the links down in the description. But that is all I got for you. Remember to stay inspired, stay motivated, always invest in yourself, and I'm out.